It was a rainy morning in São Paulo. The busy streets reflected the city's typical chaos, with honking cars and pedestrians running for shelter from the rain. In the city center, the João Mendes courthouse, known for handling the most controversial and important cases in São Paulo's justice system, was more agitated than usual. The tension in the courtroom was palpable. Inside the court, lawyers in expensive suits whispered among themselves and analyzed documents. In the center of the room stood Judge Joaquim Braga, a 60-year-old man known for his rigid posture and impatience with protocol deviations. He reviewed the day's cases. He had a striking presence, well-combed grey hair, thick-rimmed glasses, and a perpetually furrowed brow that revealed his natural skepticism. It was in this charged environment that José Rafael entered. He could not have stood out more from the others present. He was a young, thin, black man, about 17 years old, wearing a simple dress shirt and a pair of worn-out shoes. He carried a heavy-looking black backpack, which he held firmly. Despite his simple appearance, José held his head high and stood with a straight posture. All eyes quickly turned to him. Whispers began circulating around the room. "Who is this boy? What is he doing here?" some of the attendees asked. The contrast between him and the suited lawyers could not have been more striking. José walked to a bench at the back of the room and sat down, ignoring the curious stares. Shortly after, Judge Joaquim Braga struck his gavel, calling the courtroom to order. His voice echoed with authority. "We will begin the trial of Silva versus Agran, a legal dispute over land in the state's interior. I request the presence of the attorney representing the plaintiff." For a moment there was silence. Then José Rafael stood up. With measured steps, he walked to the center of the room. With each step, the murmurs grew louder. When he reached the podium, he placed his backpack on the floor and said firmly, "Good morning, Your Honor. My name is José Rafael, and I am the attorney representing Mrs. Marta Silva." The room fell completely silent. The lawyers exchanged disbelieving looks, and even Judge Braga stopped leafing through his papers to look at the boy. He adjusted his glasses and stared at José with a mixture of astonishment and disdain. "Excuse me, are you saying that you are Mrs. Marta Silva's lawyer? This is a real hearing, young man. We are not rehearsing a play. Where is the real attorney?" José remained calm, his tone controlled. "Your Honor, I am Mrs. Silva's attorney. I am here to represent her, as allowed by law." Judge Braga let out a short, dry laugh that quickly turned into sarcasm. "This must be a joke. Who gave this child permission to enter here as an attorney?" He looked around, seeking support in the equally perplexed expressions of those present. "Come on, boy. This isn't a playground to pretend you're a lawyer." At that moment, a voice rang out from the back of the room. It was Marta Silva, an elderly woman of humble appearance. She stood and said firmly, "He is my lawyer, Your Honor. He was the one who agreed to defend me when no one else would." Judge Braga narrowed his eyes, clearly displeased. He struck the gavel to silence the murmurs and requested that José Rafael present his credentials. The young man opened his backpack, removed a sealed envelope, and handed it to the court officer. When the officer passed the documents to the judge, the room once again fell silent, everyone watching intently as the judge examined the papers. His expression gradually changed from disbelief to surprise. He looked at José and for the first time spoke without sarcasm. "Well, it appears your documents are in order. You are indeed a licensed attorney. But tell me, young man, how did someone your age manage this?" José looked at the judge with composure and replied, "With a lot of studying, Your Honor, but I'm not here to talk about myself. I'm here to defend my client." The judge was momentarily speechless, but quickly regained his composure and announced, "Very well, since you insist, you may present your case, but I warn you now, you will receive no leniency from me." José nodded, returned to the podium, and began organizing his papers. The courtroom was still buzzing with murmurs, but he, oblivious to it all, knew he had to prove, not just to the judge but to everyone there, that he was up to the challenge. José Rafael was born and raised in Paraisópolis, one of São Paulo's largest communities. He was the only son of Dona Vera, a hard-working woman who had raised him alone since José's father abandoned them when he was still a baby. Dona Vera worked as a house cleaner in wealthy neighborhoods, often leaving before sunrise and returning late at night, exhausted but determined to give her son a better future. From a young age, José showed he was different. While other children played in the streets, he preferred to spend hours reading the few books his mother brought home, often found in the trash or gifted by people she worked for. When he began attending the local public school, he quickly caught the teachers' attention with his intelligence and curiosity. He not only learned quickly, but had a thirst for knowledge that impressed everyone. By the age of 9, José began showing exceptional talent for solving math problems and a unique gift with words. One of his teachers, Mr. Arnaldo, noticed the boy's potential and started helping him, bringing advanced books and materials. "José, you've got something special, kid. Never let anyone convince you otherwise," the teacher would say. At 12, José entered a regional essay competition and took first place, beating students from private and prestigious schools. His essay, titled The Right to Dream, talked about the reality of life in the communities and the importance of fighting for justice. The piece drew so much attention that a local journalist did a feature on him, which ended up changing his life. Thanks to the visibility, José earned a full scholarship at an elite school in São Paulo. But that achievement came with its own challenges. In this new environment, he was constantly the target of prejudice. Many classmates from wealthy families mocked his humble origins and the fact that he was the only black student in the class. "What are you doing here?" a classmate once said. "This place isn't for people like you." José, however, never let those words affect him. He knew he was there on merit, and that his presence only made others uncomfortable because it challenged their stereotypes. "No matter what they think," his mother would say when she saw him down at night, "you are my pride, my genius, and you'll go much further than they can imagine." Throughout his years at the school, José excelled in all subjects but had a special passion for debates. He became president of the debate club and began competing in state-level tournaments, always defending themes related to equity and social justice. It was during this time that he decided he wanted to become a lawyer. "I want to help people like us, Mom. I want to fight for those no one listens to," he told her one night while studying. At 15, José was accepted into a special advanced study program that allowed him to finish high school and begin law school in an accelerated track. He attended public university during the day and studied late into the night at home, always determined to achieve his goal. When he graduated at just 17 years old, he received special recognition from the university for his outstanding academic performance. But even after graduating, the challenges didn't stop. Finding opportunities in the legal market as a young black man from a humble background was not easy. He spent months handing out resumes and facing looks of disdain. But José didn't give up. He knew that his greatest weapon was his knowledge and determination. That's why when Dona Marta Silva, a longtime neighbor of his mother, sought legal help, José didn't hesitate to take the case, despite knowing it would be difficult. Dona Marta was facing a dispute with a large company that claimed to own the land where she and her family had lived for decades. Without money to hire renowned lawyers, she placed her trust in José, the boy who had grown up beside her and who was now a trained lawyer. "Do you believe you can help me, José?" Dona Marta asked, tears in her eyes. "I don't just believe, Dona Marta. I know I can," he answered, determined. And so José Rafael decided that this would be the first of many battles. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but as in his entire life, he was willing to fight against adversity. It was the day of the hearing. The João Mendes courthouse in São Paulo was bustling. Experienced lawyers paraded by with their leather briefcases, clients waited anxiously, and the air was thick with formality. Amid this crowd, José Rafael entered the courtroom alongside Dona Marta Silva. He was wearing the best he had, a blue dress shirt, simple black trousers, and a pair of shoes his mother had managed to have repaired especially for the occasion. As soon as Jose crossed the room, eyes turned to him, first out of curiosity, then disbelief. After all, who was that young black man with such a simple appearance to be in such an imposing setting? Dona Marta walked beside him with trembling hands, but Jose's confident expression comforted her. Judge Joaquim Braga, already seated in his position of authority, observed the movements in the room. It was like every other formal day until the moment the hearing began. Case Silva vs. Agrosan. I ask that legal representatives identify themselves, he announced in a stern tone. A brief silence fell over the room. Then Jose Rafael stood up. With firm steps he walked to the podium. The sound of his footsteps seemed to echo amid the murmurs that arose as he began to speak. Your Honor, my name is Jose Rafael. I am the legal representative of Mrs. Marta Silva, he said in a clear, firm voice. The room fell into a momentary silence, followed by muffled laughter and surprised glances. The attending lawyers whispered among themselves, some clearly amused by what they thought was a joke. Judge Braga adjusted his glasses and narrowed his eyes as if trying to confirm what he'd just heard. He crossed his hands and leaned slightly forward. "Excuse me, young man, are you saying you are Mrs. Marta Silva's attorney?" he asked, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Yes, sir," Jose replied without hesitation. The judge let out a dry laugh and looked around the courtroom as if seeking complicity from others. "This must be a joke. How can a boy your age be here pretending to be a lawyer? Where is the real attorney?" Seated at the back, Dona Marta stood up with a mix of fear and determination. "He is my lawyer, Your Honor. He was the only one who agreed to help me when no one else would." The judge raised his eyebrows, clearly intrigued but also irritated. "Well, if that's the case, young man, I hope you have proof of your qualification. We are not here to play dress-up." Jose calmly opened his backpack, took out a sealed envelope, and handed it to the court officer. Silence fell over the room as the officer carried the documents to the judge. During this moment, Jose stood tall, maintaining eye contact with the judge with a serene expression. When Judge Braga opened the envelope and began reviewing the documents, his expression gradually changed. He went from skeptical to serious, and finally to surprised. The room seemed to hold its breath while waiting for final confirmation. "Well, from what I see here, you really are a licensed lawyer. You're registered with the Bar Association, and everything appears to be in order," said the judge, adjusting his glasses again. He paused and looked at Jose. "But tell me, how did someone your age manage to accomplish this? It's not exactly common." Jose wasn't intimidated. He took a deep breath and replied, "Your Honor, my mother always taught me that with effort and dedication anything is possible. I studied hard, passed the exams, and fulfilled all the requirements. I'm here today not for show, but because what's at stake here is justice." Judge Braga furrowed his brow, clearly challenged by the young man's confidence. "Very well. If you're that confident, you may proceed, but know that I expect nothing less than professionalism. I will make no concessions for your age or any other factor." Jose nodded calmly, returned to the podium, and began organizing his papers. The eyes were still on him, some disdainful, others surprised. Even under all that pressure, he remained composed. He knew the real test was yet to come. From the back bench, Dona Marta watched him. Her hands still trembled, but a new hope was shining in her eyes. She knew Jose was young, but she also knew he was her best chance against the powerful Agrosan. With Judge Joaquim Braga's permission, Jose Rafael straightened his papers at the podium, maintaining a firm stance. The room was still full of murmurs, but he seemed immune to any distraction. The case he defended was delicate. Mrs. Marta Silva, a humble elderly woman, was facing a dispute with Agrosan, a powerful agricultural company that claimed to own the land where she had lived with her family for over 30 years. Jose began his presentation in a clear, objective voice. Your Honor, today I represent a citizen who dedicated her entire life to work and family. The land in question has belonged to Mrs. Marta Silva since it was acquired by her late husband. But now, it is being unjustly claimed by a company that is using its influence and power to try to take it from her. He raised a document he had previously prepared. Here is the original property record, which shows that Mrs. Marta Silva and her family have held the deed to the land since 1992. José began distributing copies of the document, calmly explaining each technical detail. He cited articles from the Brazilian Civil Code related to property rights and presented evidence that Agrosan was attempting to manipulate documents to invalidate the elderly woman's rightful ownership. As he spoke, his argument was clear and precise. He didn't use complicated or grandiose language, but was technical enough to impress. Even those who had smirked with disdain when he introduced himself were now paying attention. Furthermore, Your Honor, he continued, raising another paper, here is an independent expert report confirming that the documents presented by Agrosan contain irregularities. There are clear signs of forgery in the signature of the supposed original seller. This evidence confirms that the company intended to defraud my client's ownership rights. Judge Braga, who at first had barely concealed his disdain, began leaning forward in his chair, analyzing the documents more closely. He gestured to Agrosan's lawyer, who immediately stood up. With all due respect, Your Honor, began the company's attorney, Marcos Tavares, a middle-aged man with a flawless suit and a condescending smile. This case is more complex than Mr. Rafael is trying to portray. Agrosan acquired the land legally, and all documentation is properly registered. Furthermore, I must say the defense presented by him lacks experience. He gave José a look of superiority before continuing. This young lawyer may be dedicated, but he clearly oversimplifies a matter involving deep legal nuances. We are not here for emotional speeches. We are here to analyze legal facts. José listened calmly without interruption. When Marcos finished, the judge looked at José and motioned for him to respond. I appreciate the defense's statement, said José in a firm but respectful tone. However, I insist that what we are presenting are objective facts. The evidence I have submitted to this court shows that Mrs. Marta Silva has legitimate possession of the land, and the irregularities in the documents presented by Agrosan are clear. The issue is not about experience, but about justice. The room was filled with a light murmur. José's calm and direct response had surprised some. He then continued, we cannot ignore that Agrosan's economic power is being used as a weapon to intimidate a common citizen, someone who does not have the same financial resources or influence. This court exists to protect the vulnerable and ensure that no one is deprived of their rights. José went on to present testimonies from neighbors that corroborated Mrs. Marta's continuous presence on the land since the 1990s, along with supplementary documents that reinforced her legal possession. Each point was defended with clarity and objectivity, as if he had been born to be there. Attorney Marcos tried to interrupt him several times with technical questions, but José responded to each one calmly, showing he had done his homework. Gradually, even those who underestimated him began to realize he was not just a talented young man, he was a prepared professional. Judge Braga, who until then had observed with skepticism, began to ask questions. José answered each one precisely, making it clear that he knew not only the case, but also the legal foundations necessary to defend it. Very well, Mr. Rafael, said the judge finally. I must admit your argument is very well grounded. But I still have one question. If the property possession is as clear as you say, why did this case reach the court? José took a deep breath and responded, Your Honor, this case reached the court because Agrosan used its influence and resources to create delays in the process and pressure my client to give up. But Mrs. Marta Silva did not give up, and I'm here to ensure that justice prevails. José's direct response seemed to impress the judge. He nodded slowly, and the murmur in the room grew louder. Even Marcos Tavares seemed uncomfortable with José's confidence. But José knew the battle was far from over. He had gained the court's attention, but now he needed to ensure that his evidence would be enough to win the case. The atmosphere in the courtroom was electric. After José Rafael's meticulous presentation, all eyes were fixed on the young lawyer. He had captured the attention of Judge Joaquim Braga and challenged the experienced defense of Marcos Tavares, who now seemed more tense than confident. But the most decisive moment was yet to come. Mr. Tavares, the court grants the defense the opportunity to present any additional evidence or rebuttals to what has been presented so far, declared the judge in a neutral but attentive tone. Marcos Tavares, in an effort to regain ground, stood up and adjusted his glasses with his fingertips. He paused as if carefully calculating each word. "Your Honor, I would like to emphasize that this case is not as simple as Mr. Rafael tries to make it seem. Although he has shown himself to be very articulate, the central issue here is the authenticity of the documents presented by both parties. And as we know, it requires deep technical knowledge and experience to handle such nuances." He cast another condescending look at José, trying to destabilize him. "With all due respect, Your Honor, we must ask ourselves if Mr. Rafael truly understands the complexity of this case, or if we are witnessing a well-rehearsed but hollow speech." The attention in the room was palpable. Judge Braga looked at José and gestured for him to respond. José took a deep breath, controlling the emotions rising inside him. He knew that Marcos Tavares was not just questioning his evidence, he was questioning his legitimacy. Something José had faced his entire life. "Your Honor," José began with a calm but resolute voice, "my job here is to present facts. And the facts clearly show that the documents presented by Agrasan contain serious irregularities. This is not a rehearsed speech, as the defense claimed, but concrete evidence verified by experts." He lifted one of the documents and walked toward the projection screen in the courtroom. "Allow me to highlight once again the inconsistencies in the signature of the supposed seller." He pointed to the signature. "We see a glaring difference between this signature and other authenticated signatures of the same individual. This is more than an irregularity. It is evidence of bad faith." The room fell silent as José explained each detail using language technical enough to impress the court, yet clear enough for everyone to understand. He cited specific articles of the Brazilian Civil Code, reinforcing that document manipulation constituted an attempt at fraud. "More than that, Your Honor," José continued, now turning to the judge, "this case is not just about documents or property. It is about a basic principle of justice. My client, Mrs. Marta Silva, has dedicated her life to this land. She raised her children here, planted trees, cared for the soil. It is not just a piece of land to her. It is her family's history." José paused, letting his words resonate through the room before concluding. "Your Honor, what is at stake here is more than a property. It is the dignity of a Brazilian citizen who trusted the legal system to protect her." Judge Braga rested his chin on one hand, thoughtful. He seemed to be evaluating not only José's words, but also the impact they had on the case. When Marcos Tavares tried to speak again, the judge raised a hand, indicating he should wait. "Mr. Tavares, I will take some time to review the evidence presented by both parties before making my decision. This court will recess for 1 hour." As soon as the judge left the room, the murmur returned. Many of those present began to discuss the strength of José's arguments. Some older lawyers, who had initially laughed at him, now looked at the young man with respect. Mrs. Marta approached José and held his hand. "Thank you, my son. No matter what happens, you've already done more for me than I could have imagined." José smiled, squeezing her hand. "Mrs. Marta, we're not done yet. We'll see this through to the end." After the break, court resumed. Judge Braga entered with a serious expression and took his seat. He banged the gavel, calling for silence. After carefully reviewing the evidence presented and hearing the arguments from both parties, this court has reached a decision. The authenticity of the documents presented by Agrosan was seriously questioned, while the evidence brought by the plaintiff was consistent and well-founded. Therefore, I rule in favor of Mrs. Marta Silva. The property shall remain in her name. The room erupted into murmurs and gasps of surprise. Mrs. Marta, overcome with emotion, hugged Jose tightly. The judge then looked directly at Jose and for the first time spoke in a softer tone. "Mr. Rafael, I must admit that in the beginning I had serious doubts about your capability. But today you have proven that talent and dedication can overcome any prejudice. This court thanks you for reminding us of the true purpose of justice." Jose nodded, visibly emotional, but maintaining his composure. He knew that moment was more than a legal victory. It was a milestone in his fight against the prejudice he had faced all his life. The verdict of Judge Joaquim Braga echoed in the minds of everyone present in the courtroom. The young lawyer, Jose Rafael, had not only won the case, but also changed the perception of those who initially doubted him. Jose Rafael's name was already being whispered through the hallways of the João Mendes Forum, not just as a talented lawyer, but as a symbol of determination and resilience. Still emotional, Dona Marta Silva wiped away her tears as she thanked the young man. "You didn't just save my house, Jose. You saved my story, the legacy of my family. May God bless you, my son." Jose smiled, his eyes welling up, but he maintained a professional posture. "Dona Marta, your fight is the fight of many people. I only did what was right, and I want to keep doing this for everyone who needs it." As he gathered his papers, several lawyers who had previously ignored him began to approach, offering congratulations. Even Tavares, the experienced lawyer from Agrosan, came over to Jose with a humbler expression. "I must admit, Rafael, I underestimated you. Today I learned a lesson I'll never forget," said Tavares, extending his hand. Jose shook his hand and replied humbly, "We are all here to learn, Mr. Tavares. I thank you for the opportunity to defend my client." In the following days, Jose Rafael's story began circulating in local newspapers and on social media. Articles highlighted the young lawyer from the outskirts who had stood up to giants in court. The story quickly gained traction, inspiring young people across Brazil who saw themselves reflected in Jose. Messages began to pour in through social media. One from a young woman named Luana caught his attention. "Jose, my family lives in a difficult situation, and sometimes I feel like my dreams of studying and changing our reality are impossible. But after hearing your story, I realized we can't give up. Thank you for being an inspiration." Jose replied to every message, encouraging young people to persist in their dreams and believe that education is the key to transforming realities. With the impact of the case, Jose decided to take things a step further. He created a project called Justice for All, which offered free legal assistance to low-income individuals and mentorship for young people interested in the field of law. In partnership with volunteer lawyers and universities, the project began organizing workshops in underprivileged communities, showing youth that knowledge could be a powerful weapon against injustice. During the project's first event, Jose spoke to a group of young people and adults. "I, too, have been underestimated. They've told me I didn't belong here, but I proved that our place is wherever we fight to be. I want you to know that you are capable, that you have value, and that you can change your stories." Months after the case, Jose received an unexpected call. Judge Joaquim Braga invited him to an event at the João Mendes Forum. When he arrived, Jose was surprised by a ceremony held in his honor. The judge, now with a less severe expression, gave a speech before an audience of lawyers, judges, and students. "When I met Mr. Rafael, I admit I was skeptical, but today I can proudly say that he taught me something fundamental. Justice is not measured by the age, color, or origin of the one who defends it. This young man is an example of what we should all strive for in our profession. The judge presented Jose with a plaque of recognition, inscribed, "For your dedication to justice and for the inspiration you have brought to many." Despite the recognition, Jose never forgot those who had always believed in him. One quiet afternoon, he returned home with a bouquet of flowers and the plaque in his hands. Donna Vera, who had been waiting for him with a proud smile, hugged him with tears in her eyes. "This is for you, Mom," said Jose, handing her the plaque. "None of this would be possible without you." Donna Vera replied, "I always knew you were special, my son. But the most beautiful thing is the heart you have. It's not just what you do, it's why you do it." Over the years, Jose Rafael continued his brilliant career as a lawyer and mentor. His story was not just about winning a case. It was about breaking barriers, inspiring change, and proving that talent and determination have no color, age, or origin. In an interview for a television program, Jose summarized his journey with words that resonated across the country. "Justice, to me, is not just a profession, it's a mission. And each of us has the power to make a difference, no matter how small it may seem. My story is only the beginning. I hope it inspires many others to keep fighting, no matter the obstacles."